But then he just said it on his own, like they're not telling him what to do. And I had no idea he gave that.
As a proven industry leader, our primary focus is on safety and protecting health and the environment throughout the life cycle of every well that we operate.
Heard a lot from Mr. Hackett this morning about how engaged and involved in the community Anadarko is. And in this award, we're highlighting the work that they did to reach out to local communities.
Anadarko's Wattenberg rig fleet is utilizing pad and horizontal drilling techniques to target the liquid-rich Niobrara and Codell rock formations.
And so what we're doing now is we are building these extremely high efficiency pads in which we drill 22 wells out from a single pad going all the way out away from the wellbore.
By definition, you're automatically using 75% less land. Plus, you're more efficient. You're not having to rig it down and move it, you're moving it in 10 hours.
Our hotels have been booked at full capacity for the last 3 years.
We have the new apartment complexes, we have a new cancer center. We're seeing all these great things that are coming to Uvalde, and part of that is due to the Eagleford boom, that there's money and people willing to stay and invest in our town.
I have a lot of fun working with my coworkers at WPX. We work very hard, but we play really hard too.
With the perfection of transformational energy technologies, such as hydraulic fracturing, American oil companies are developing U.S. shale resources more than ever in our history. Today, the United States imports less oil than it has in 20 years. The oil and gas sector has added thousands of jobs to the U.S. economy, and American companies are at the leading edge of a global energy market.
The development of natural gas will create jobs and power trucks and factories that are cleaner and cheaper, proving that we don't have to choose between our environment and our economy.
Hydraulic fracturing has been in use for more than 50 years, but modern developments, including the use of horizontal drilling, have allowed the industry to flourish over the last decade. The United States sits atop a vast resource of energy, but until the advent of modern hydraulic fracturing, those resources were largely inaccessible. The production process involves the injection of water combined with a proprietary mixture of sand and chemicals deep into the ground to fracture shale formations and release oil and gas trapped inside. Today, technology and economics have united to make drilling in places like Pennsylvania, North Dakota, and New York attractive business investments. Already in the last few years, there has been a spike in U.S. energy production. But the triumph of hydraulic fracturing, combined with recent geological discoveries, has the potential to sustain domestic natural gas production for 100 years.
A good wave from the policeman. That was good. Yo! But it's a connection. You're not trying to connect. It's really been fun to rally the cause for the voices being heard that we believe in drilling. And all of the lifestyle that drilling provides, not only for this area, but for the state of Utah. It generates lots of revenues. And for, as a country, it creates not only revenues, tax revenues to build libraries and do all kinds, build roads and all this kind of good stuff, but it also provides a lifestyle.
We're getting there.
We're coming along, huh?
We're there.
Doing all the sound checks and all the...
Yeah, I think, Alright, great, we're rolling.
All right, so as you're getting that going, my name is Michael McKee. I'm a county commissioner here in UNT County. I have been a county commissioner going on 10 years. 60% of the economy is tied to the extractive industry. 50% of our jobs are tied to the extractive industry, and so it's a very important segment. In fact, you take that part away, the rest of the economy probably wouldn't survive very well. We just wouldn't have a lot of economy without that.
Right after Obama was made president, and then the bust started, and we had, instead of being in a boom economy like we were, we went to a bust economy. They just barely let us start drilling again. They started granting new licenses about 6 months ago.
The town in question is Williston, North Dakota, about 2 hours north of where I am right now, and several people characterize it to me as borderline out of control. Americans need work, they need money, and it's a dynamic where you have billions of dollars coming in, thousands of people following it, because millions of barrels of oil are flowing out.
We notice when the oil field, we'll notice when we don't have quite as many guys in here from the oil companies, or when they start bringing them back in. When they start drilling, we'll get more of the drillers in. And we used to have a ton of regular directional drillers that would rotate in and out.
When I get that single finger salute, I'm like grateful. I mean, come on, you're sure beats walking, right? You love drilling. Say it when you fill up.
We've got potentially 600,000 jobs and 100 years worth of energy right beneath our feet with natural gas. And we can do it in an environmentally sound way.
To say, well, we have to stop it when it's clearly happening, I think perhaps unrealistic is perhaps the better word to use. We think it's unrealistic to expect that we're going to put this genie back in the bottle.
If you're in Boston or California, in Los Angeles, maybe that would seem, kind of insignificant, but to a community, it means everything to us because it is our livelihood, it is our jobs, it is our way of life.
The only bad thing about it was the layoffs. Shell had a humongous layoff. Everybody was pretty much gone. They left, took their entire business to Colorado, I believe. And most of the people who did get to stay on had to move. It almost felt like we didn't have enough money at all. But I can't complain because before we went for the oil rigs, he used to work for cell barns and feedlots. Well, they were much less pay. I think those were maybe highest, I think it was $7 to $10 an hour, and that would be only 8 shifts. So it's much different.
Fracking is a concern. It's a concern of, number one, the volume of water used, period, to do it. I can water a lot of cattle and a lot of antelope and a lot of western meadowlarks and lark buntings with 60,000 barrels of water. And then, of course, the second thing is the concern of what if that fracking fluid got in the aquifer that this well is pumping out of? If this well all of a sudden became contaminated because that fracking fluid got in the shallow aquifer, your antelope would die, your livestock couldn't be run here, bird populations, invertebrates, they'd all be in trouble without water.
We've been really, in the summer, we've been trying to follow the water and figuring out like where the water trucks come from, where the facilities are that are bringing water to these wells, and then also where the water goes when it's done. It's been hard. There's not a lot of information out there right now.
Well, I was doing legal aid work in California after law school and wanted to get back in the environmental field and figured if I could do environmental work anywhere, I might as well do it in a place I really care about.
Well, in every industry, there's the unethical minority. And that can happen certainly in an oil and gas development, where you've got a truckload of maybe fracking fluid, return water, and you need to dump it, and you're a truck driver, and you go to the disposal site, the waste pit, and you're running late at night, and they've already closed it for the evening. So what do? You're tired. You're working for some company, and you're hauling this. So you go down a dirt road, and you open your valve, and you spread it. Why don't you cut that off for a minute?
The industry as a whole, always says it's just the bad actors. And the regulatory agencies are, very good at saying that's not my job. And then you go talk to the other agency and they also say it's not my job. So sometimes it's no one's job, actually.
This is the central debate about fracking, whether or not things get in the groundwater. The companies who do this say, no, it's completely safe, largely because there's space, there's a lot of rock in between the fracking operations and drinking water, be it wells or reservoirs.
The Millennium Pipeline is a 30-inch line that feeds into the downstate New York. 30 inches is a pretty major line, and I think, what does it come up? What is this one from Pennsylvania? 12 or 16 or something like that?
I think this is 18.
18 inch.
If I remember.
So basically this is sucking gas up from Pennsylvania to get into a major pipeline.
You're negotiating against
the most powerful industry in the United States, in the world.
And possibly in the
American
world.
Oil and gas
and
industry,
lawyers
no
and all that
people.
stuff. So what are my chances as a little landowner?
And you don't see the carp, but you can see them in the water when the sun goes beyond the trees. They come in and consider the water swirling all the way all over here.
One of the reasons everybody got taken by surprise is hydrofracking made getting gas from miles down economical.
The difference now is it's horizontal hydrofracking where they're going down, like Hal's saying, they're going down and then they're going out like spider webs.
It sounds like, if you can imagine a giant, something under enormous pressure, suddenly, with an opening this big, it sounds like a jet engine.
People started to raise the alarm bells in New York, initially around the New York City watershed and the prospect that, whoa, they could be doing gas development in the midst of these reservoirs that supply drinking water to 9 million New Yorkers.
Now we're doing research on the internet and finding out that people that live around compressor stations are getting sick.
I'm going to show you. I'm going to take a walk to where the station's supposed to be. Well, probably they're going to make some kind of connection between here and the pipeline because all this land belongs to them now.
Right now we've got a patchwork across the country. We've got states where a local government can say almost nothing, and an oil and gas company can come in and locate on property without the town board or the supervisor having anything to say about it. And in other places, towns have a lot more authority. And that's something that we think deserves a lot of attention, and we think we should be moving in a direction where local governments have more, not less, authority.
In the West, where roughly half of land is owned by the federal government, the Bureau of Land Management regulates oil and gas drilling on federal property. Federal regulators are required to follow a complicated and largely non-discretionary series of procedures, including the development of regional management plans and other requirements of the National Environmental Policy Act, also known as NEPA.
When this field was first started, it was one well per one section, and it went to two. and it went to 4.
So now they're gotten to the point of saying, you know what, we will use existing well pads, make them a little bit larger and put more wells on it. They'll drill one hole down, then using hydraulic rams, they'll move that whole rig over to set over the next hole and start drilling down it.
Here in Vernal, it's about oil and gas. I mean, our primary mission is oil and gas. I mean, if you look at our budget, most of it's focused on the oil and gas aspects because that's where all the work is at. That's where the priority work is at. I don't have anybody beating my door down locally about development or oil and gas issues. I get challenged a lot from the larger groups, from the SUAs or whatever, for whatever reasons. You know, the backed up APDs that we have in the building right now that we're working on, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,500. I mean, we just approved a big EIS for Anadarko. They're bringing me APDs now, site-specific, you know, APDs for individual wells, some of them 100 at a time.
I look at how well did they recontour it to blend it back into what was here originally. I look at how clean are the facilities. You know, this location has pipe on it. There's another piece of pipe over there. I'm looking, are there any major leaks? You know, have they spilt something on the ground? Are their facilities painted all the same color? You know, and is it an approved color for them? That's what I look for. And I just do the overall experience. I take a look at the vegetation sometimes. You know, this location has a lot of weeds on it, and that is a weed what they're supposed to control. That's a tough one that really likes the disturbance.
In places where land is privately owned, oil and gas developers are largely exempt from federal environmental law.
If I owned 100% of the minerals around my house, that would be a place where you might consider, the money's not worth it to have the noise and the dust and the traffic of an oil well close to your house. How much am I going to make off it? Is the trade-off worth it? Is that inconvenience and that headache worth the financial compensation? I wouldn't want it there. Would you? When you look at it from the greater good, I mean, obviously, we're a very, very thirsty nation. You know, it's really easy for people to sit back and say, oh, well, we have too much pollution, or these trains are causing a headache, or we're mining out all of this, but yet very few people are actually deciding to turn off their electricity and or stop using fossil fuels to drive. The modern conveniences of which we've become accustomed are directly dependent on fossil fuels.
I'll be on the street corner with Holland County Field of Drilling, and someone will drive by, and they'll flip me off, and I'm like, but you're driving. Can't you get it? You just filled up like yesterday. I mean, you're that disconnected to reality that not only just in that one segment, that an oil and gas from a fuel to provide so that they don't have to walk, but all the other things that they enjoy, cell phones and everything that's made from plastics and clothes and cosmetics, and the list goes on and on. So, just dig in a little bit and recognize you really do love drilling.
What we're going to see as we move forward is the need for more extractive product, not less. And as the standard of living continues to improve throughout the world, there's going to be more need. In Uinta County, Uinta Basin, there's about 1.3 trillion barrels of oil in oil shale sitting underneath this county. So what's that, 5 or 6 times more underneath us here in the Uinta Basin than's in Saudi Arabia? Okay, then if you take the Green River Formation of eastern Utah, western Colorado, you were looking about 4 trillion barrels. We could be looking at hundreds of years of supply if you could develop all that. Look at the wars that have been fought over in the Mideast. Let's be honest, a lot of this is probably about oil and economy. We have every opportunity right here in our own country. We have bright minds. We can do it. That's not the issue. What we need is the political will and capital to move forward and make it happen.